All right, so this is a quick Unit 5 review talking about all the things that we've kind of talked about in Unit 5 as far as naming and writing. So the big things we talked about is the naming slash writing of ionics, okay? And that follows under the umbrella of these three categories. All right, so first we talked about simple binary meaning two, simple binary ionic compounds. Then we talked about a little bit more complex things called polyatomics. And then we introduced also the transition metals there. Metals. And then we also introduced acids and bases. All right, so we're going to take a little bit and review some of these one by one. All right, so first off is the binary. So binary, which just has two capital letters. All right, so that'd be like sodium, which is Na1+, and say sulfide, which is S2-. All right, so if I wanted to write the compound of this, I would crisscross these numbers, and I would lose the charges. So my compound would be Na2S. All right, so you just see here, there are only two capital letters in that compound. All right, if I wanted to name this, it'd be sodium sulfide. All right, IDE ending. So we're all pretty good on that stuff. All right, that's the first category. All right, the second category are the polyatomics. All right, and those have three capital letters or more, or more. I'll just say plus. All right, so for instance, we could have sodium, which is a +1, and say carbonate, which is a CO3-2. All right, so I'm still crisscrossing just like I did in the previous section. All right, now the thing you're going to be introduced with numbers down at the bottom. All right, those numbers stay at the bottom. All right, so I'm going to leave that 3 there. The only numbers I switch are the ones with the charges at the top. All right, so very important there. So that would be Na2 CO3, and since it's a 1, I really don't have to put the 1 there. All right, so that's with 3 capital letters with polyatomics. Let's look at one more example of that. Let's look at aluminum, which is a +3, and sulfate, which is SO4-2, which also brings up another point. If it's a polyatomic, it ends in ATE or ITE. All right, there are a couple exceptions. The IDE with hydroxide, right? That's OH1-, and cyanide, which is CN1-. All right, those are the only exceptions to the IT or ATE rule. All right, if it ends in ATE or ITE, then it's going to be a polyatomic. All right, so this is aluminum. And then I would look on the back of my periodic table and find out this is called sulfate. All right, so I'm still going to crisscross these numbers and write the compound like I have in the past. All right, remember this 4 stays down here. The only numbers I change are the numbers up top. Drop those charges. So my formula would be Al2SO43. Right? Aluminum sulfate, Al2SO43. I have to put parentheses because if I don't put parentheses, it's going to look like 43 instead of 4 and then 3. All right, so that's that. The transition metals. Transition metals. All right, the transition metals. So most of the time, these are going to, if I had a diagram of the periodic table here, all right, the transition metals are going to be in here or in that group 14 there. All right. All right, the way you can tell what the charge of a transition metal is, and this is where you got to put the Roman numerals. All right, that's the way you tell what Roman numeral you put is by looking at what it's paired with. So if I have iron here and I have oxygen, I know oxygen is going to be a 2 minus. Iron can be a, we'll just say +3 here in this case. So this would be iron 3. All right, this 3 came from there. Iron 3 oxide. All right, and if I wrote the formula for this, not any different here. 2 would go there, 3 would go there because I crisscross it. All right, let's look at another example of this. Say I have 10 SnO2. All right, I know oxygen. Oxygen, I know from the periodic table, has a -2 charge. So that 2 should have went down there. All right, but it's not there right now. And this 10 is in the +4 column. So that had to be a +4, but they simplified it down. This originally started like this. All right, and it was simplified down to that. So this would be 10, Roman numeral 4, oxide. All right, 10, Roman numeral 4, oxide. All right, one more example with the transition metals. Fe, say if I have Fe, well, I'll just say if I just have FeO, all right, this would be iron. And I know oxygen was a -2, so that means iron had to be a +2 to cancel it out. So this would be iron 2 oxide. Now you only put Roman numerals with transitions only. Transition only. All right, transitions only. Okay. And the last part, acids. All right, acids. All right, you have 2 types of acids. You have binary, which is just 2 capital letters. Most of the time it's going to be H1+ and something else. Okay? That something else could be Cl, 1-, it could be F, 1-, it could be S, 2-. All right, it could be anything. All right, you're going to name it, you're going to write it, crisscross it, and write it just the same. But when you name it, you're going to put hydro in front of it. Hydro, and just say it's chlorine. I'd change it to hydrochloric. Add ic to the end, and then put acid. So all you're doing is put hydro at the front, ic at the back, and then put acid in it. All right, those are binary compounds. All right, binary is just 2 capital letters. All right, polyatomic ones have 3 capital letters. All right, so that could be something in the front. It's always going to be H+, and then something in the back, NO3. Instead of just one thing, it's 2 things, 1-. Now, if it's a polyatomic that ends in 8, you got to change the ending to IC. All right, if it's a polyatomic, separate this. If it's a polyatomic that ends in ITE, you're going to change it to OUS. So this polyatomic was nitrate. Nitrate. I'm going to change that to nitric acid. And I don't put hydro on the front. All right, same thing. Let's do another example of that. Say I have H2SO4. I'm looking at the SO4 part. I find out that that is sulfate for my periodic table. I'm going to change the ATE to IC, so it'll be sulfuric acid. All right, so sometimes you have to use the root word sulfur and then add IC to it. I think sulfur is really the only one you have to do that on. All right, so that's a quick review of all the things that you need to know to take the Unit 5 exam.